had a couple of extra dollars, I'd get the new Apple laptop. They say you can't infect it. It's uninfectable.
Roger, since the microphone works, it seems to work. I hear you good.
Yeah.
No, so hey. Okay, so I think we got the sound working today. You're live. We're building an audience for you. And so while we wait for the audience, another Southern Porches, another Tuesday.
Here we are,
And before
live in South Carolina, living the life.
And before we went on the air, we had some interesting discussions, shootings out in Oklahoma and the unfortunate incident in Cleveland, the stand your ground rules that Florida and Oklahoma have, and a little bit about, how to protect yourself here. Talked a little bit about just in general, what's happening to, for lack of a better word, the younger generation today, and what it's like for us to teach.
And a lot of it has to do with how you grew up. I can remember having a grandfather who worked for the penal system in Oklahoma, and when it came to guns, the man was incredibly serious about guns. I mean, very serious about guns. And so his philosophy that he taught his whole family was, unless you're willing to pull a gun and kill somebody, you don't need to own a gun. That was his thinking. That it's not to be played with. It's not a toy. It's serious business. And if you can't own it in a deadly way, don't own it. And so that's where, when I got to be in college, I said, man, I just don't know that I can pull it and hit anybody. So I just moved away from that. And so it's been years and years since I've owned a gun. But there's other people that, boy, I tell you, they like you talk about, they have a concealed weapon permit, and they have a weapon with them at all times. I had a relative that had a concealed weapon permit, and I guarantee you got in his pickup, I guarantee he was locked and loaded. You didn't mess with him. I thought, okay, well, there you go. Well, so I think I think you got to have a certain attitude for. I think some people don't have that attitude, and they're dangerous. That guns are serious business, and I guess I was very fortunate to grow up in a culture that really focused it on the seriousness of guns and using them and owning them and what they were there for. And so, but I see little of that now, and that concerns me. That and there's where we didn't talk about this before, but I was thinking about that child who was playing with the gun, and they said, well, that's no big thing, he doesn't have a clip in it. And so they put a clip in it, and he ended up shooting himself. Mm-hmm. I went, God, see? No. You don't need to be doing that. That's very scary, very sad business. And so, I don't, and this whole idea of doing away with guns is like, we got millions of guns in America. We manufacture millions of guns every day in America. We're going to do without it. I'm like, oh man, we need to get in reality. It's not about not doing it. It's about being responsible. It's about teaching it. It's about respect for something. And I think you're going to go a long way by teaching and focusing on respect than anything else. I think it's a powerful element. And I think that's a good, that kind of education, Rick, I think it starts at home. I think I've seen families that treat each other poorly, that don't really respect each other. I heard from my nephews during Easter, they were talking about disagreeing. And they said that their mother and their grandmother disagreed at times, but they still loved each other. And I thought, wow, what a and I guarantee you, their mother nor their grandmother ever, to the point said that, but they had presented that message to the children, and so the children, respected the idea of it's okay to agree to disagree, and let's move on, and we can still love each other. And again, that's about respect, and that's about respect being at home. Now, are you going to have that pillow on your lap the whole time? That'll drive me crazy.
Well, yeah, because
I'm looking at it on the screen. I'm thinking, there's got to be somebody saying, "What's Rick doing with a pillow on his lap?"
Well, it works as a little desk.
Oh, there we go.
Where I can keep this down there and actually see it. Let's talk today about a couple things. First of, one of the concerns I really have right now, and we were going to, bring it up today, was this concept of screen time and what's happening, either good, bad, the pretty or the ugly, with the technology we have and what we're seeing in the behaviors of really people in general.
Well, I think that screen time has given certain behavior credence that it didn't have before, Rick. I think there's the problem with it, is that I think there was a time that having screen time had a certain element of respect to it, had a certain element of value to it. And so on the other end, you had to earn it. And so the people who had put the time and energy into earning it were respectful of it. They watched how they looked. They watched what they had to say. They had a certain inner responsibility. They thought about, wait a minute, what am I putting out there? What is the message? Mm-hmm. And I don't see that as much anymore. What bothers me is when people can get on and do anything, say anything. And we're seeing that, like you said, the Cleveland incident is the worst. Let me kill somebody and put it on Facebook. And I love that Facebook monitored it and got it off in like 20 minutes. So I thought that was pretty impressive. But the fact that anybody would even do that, goodness gracious. So I think you're going to have a war around that, and it's a war of respect. Are you being respectful? Are you concerned about what it's going to say to other people? And I guess that's one of the things that I like about a certain group of people, is they're not vanilla. They're just thoughtful. They think about what they're saying. They think about what they're putting out there. They're trying to say, wait a minute, I want to make sure that what I'm saying is what I'm meaning, and that I am not being offensive to people, and I'm not attacking people. I'm trying to help people. And I think that's something that has changed for the good. I think a lot of times when we were younger, Rick, there were a lot of people who said, I want to help people, but the way they did it was in such a condemning, nasty, evil way that it really drowned out the message of that I was trying to help people. And they were good about getting up and saying, help people, help people, help people. But when you look, behind the curtain, kind of Wizard of Oz-ish, you realize, man, that person is kind of, off the track. And I think that happened in our generation of seeing leaders that were supposed to be responsible, who chose, when they weren't on screen, to act. They had a double life. Mm-hmm. They had a screen life and a screen persona, and they said this is what they stood for. But when you follow, then you had the investigative reporters who followed them, and you went, "Oh my goodness, man, that person's just evil. There's something wrong with that." And but again, I think you have to. It's about where you are inside. Mm-hmm. I think that is a powerful element. Is you've got to check on yourself inside and say, is this, again, is what I'm saying projecting what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is this the message I want to get out. And I love where my wife says, very clearly, do you want everybody to see that? If I'm saying something. And so before I put it out there, that's one of the things I say to myself, wait a minute, if, Joe Smith in Utah in a shack reads this, is he going to see the same thing as, somebody that's in the White House? Is it going to be something that's going to be universal? And so I try to stick to that. As I put stuff out there, I try to say, I think before I put it out. Yeah. And one of the great things is I do a certain amount of quotes on marriage right now on my Facebook page. And what's interesting is those quotes were originally made 8 years ago. Yeah. And so that I just love it. I see what I was thinking 8 years ago come back to me, and I'm like, sometimes I'm just astonished. I say, "Wow, did I think of that?" Other times I'm thinking, "Oh man, I misspelled that. How did I let that go out?" And so you kind of have a screen there.
Yeah, Sean has joined us, and he says what I agree with too, is that it seems like sometimes the social media dehumanizes the events, and we as human beings can hide behind the screen, and that's why we will say things that we would not say to someone else's face, because you do have that barrier there. But even more, I guess, challenging, and for us, here we have had great authors who have written great books on communication business, communication in marriage, and yet how many times have I sat down and a couple has had their entire argument through text messages and saying things that you're thinking, now you would never have said that to their face. Well, maybe they would have, but and now we're living our lives with that
through
barrier.
Media, yeah, and that's dangerous.
And if it's not social media, it's through text messaging or emailing, and I will have them sit here and show me. Well, I didn't say that. Well, yes, you did. Here it is, right?
Yeah, I've got it in print here. Yeah, but there's things, and you got, again, we're back to the thing of, if you don't think you can put it out there, and it's just going to fade away like smoke. Man, it's in stone. Things that they're pulling things out from people. 10 years ago, you called this person, and we've got records of it. Whoa! Or you said this. And it's like, boy, that is scary. And again, I think it's important to be responsible and to think ahead. And what I was thinking when you were talking a minute ago, Rick, was empowering the unpowerful is one of the elements that's coming about in media that scares me. Is people that never had a word, that no one ever listened to, that no one ever gave a second thought to, all of a sudden people are going, whoa, and you're like, wow, that person, wouldn't even have gotten the time of day a while back, and today they're front and center because they found a medium that's going to get them out there. And as you and I've talked, it's one thing that you can see us, and this is in real time, and you can see what we look like, and you can see how we dress and everything. But some people, you never get to see them. You don't know who they really are. They just throw their ideas out there, and they say things about people, and they go off of, if I believe it, then it's the truth. Now, I'm not going to look at anything else. I'm not going to filter it through anything else. It's all going to be in my brain. And so you have people that, again, would be what in the old days, outcast, and you would not put much credence to them. They'd be lucky if they talked to 5 people, and now they're talking to 5 million people, and so it really has a ripple effect. And again, there's an importance of being responsible, being respectful, and looking at that, and realizing this is what's going on. And I'm saying, like in Facebook, things come back to haunt you. You got to look at what you're saying, and you got to be aware of that. And if you're not, I think it comes back to some really bad consequences. And so being aware, that's probably another thing with the older generation. They don't get the effect of some of the things they do or say, and they don't get how being connected is. And other people, I always love to say, nothing. When I have a problem with my telephone, I give it to my 5-year-old grandson.
Yeah.
And they look at it and go, oh yeah, and it's fixed. I'm like, how'd you do that? And they were like, all you had to do was, and I'm like, all you had to do was what? I mean, it's way above my pay grade. I'm like, wow. But that's the generation we live in, and it's important to be aware of, just like we talk about here. When I drop a stone in the middle of a pond, there are ripples all the way to the banks, and that is the way with media. People that you don't know are listening. And so it's important and that's what I love about this show, the show we do here on Southern Porches, is we invite people to call. People call you and write to you and message, and we get to respond to that in real time, and I think that is awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the positivities that comes out of it. I do know that we are losing the ability to concentrate. These e-books and e-readers are great, except that they have done studies now and have found that people cannot concentrate as long reading when they're on an e-book. The addiction of the screen time, it's, that a lot of times they'll flip over and check email. They'll be reading a book and then flip it over to email or Facebook in the middle of it. And I think I shared with it, but I think the statistics are a goldfish has an average concentration of 9 seconds, and we now have like an average concentration of 7 seconds. Something like that.
Well, what I think of, Rick, is ice cream. If all you have is one cone a month, is ice cream ever going to be a problem? No. But if you're eating 5 a day and you're getting 300 pounds or greater, yeah, you got some real issues with that. And that's the way with media. I think people who use it a little bit and concentrate on other things, there's no big effect to that. But if I'm, reading books by that, I'm communicating with that, my life is wrapped up in that. I know people that get up in the morning, first thing they do is turn on their computer. Mm-hmm. And they have the computer with them, and at night, just before they go to bed, they click that computer mm-hmm. off.
Or they reach, if they don't have the computer, they reach for their iPhone or Android.
Oh, yeah.
To see what's new on Facebook or what they missed.
Well, and I think it creates in you an importance. I don't feel important, but if I have this connects these many friends and whatever, I love that. I got 1,000 friends on Facebook. Well, no, I have 1,000 people who connect up through Facebook, but friends are people you hang out with, you go to church with, you go have a soda with. That's a friend. And I think there's one of the things that disturbs me is the definition of friends and how during our generation it has totally changed. That from what a friend was that you called up and was willing, because of their relationship with you, to be inconvenienced. Well, I really wasn't thinking about going, down to the soda shop. Yeah. But if that's where you want to go and you want to kind of blow off some steam, let's go over and have a Coke and let you blow off some steam. That's a totally different relationship than as we see friends now. And I think that needs to be reevaluated. You reading anything?
No. I'm just trying. That's what I'm trying to make sure is that we got this being shared out. It's working a little bit different. It seems like Facebook changes the way they do stuff on this Facebook Live.
Yeah, you have to be up on it. We were talking about that before we came on the program, is how things change so quickly. and how you get used to something and you in some ways master it and you're feeling good. And what happens sometimes is in a week it can be totally different. And what you had understood no longer is an important fact. And so that's very disturbing. You know, there's not so many things that are set, and it's near impossible, I don't care what age you are, to keep up with things changing at such a rate of speed. It's like, wow, no, nobody in the world can keep up with that rate of speed. And so you've got to, at the best you can, and I think that's what we do here, is adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think about one of the things you and I talk about sometimes was I can remember when I started doing therapy in New Orleans, and that there were people who were put in a hospital for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the hospital. Now, you're lucky if you see someone today in for a week. You're like, a week? Wow. Oh, no. Oh, nobody got put in for a week when I first started. It was, you know, you're going to be here for a while. You bring a suitcase with clothes, and we're going to serve you food, and you're going to be here. We're going to give you a room, and you're going to be here a while.
Well,
Kind of Hotel California.
Yeah.
Everybody
of course
checks in, but nobody checks out.
Yeah, driven by the insurance industry, which has, changed dramatically, and in my opinion, not anywhere for the better. But the good news is there's an interesting model that's coming out today in this world.
Uh-huh.
It's called direct primary care.
Yeah.
Have you been exposed to that yet?
What is that?
It is where you...
I may have been exposed, but I don't know the title.
Yeah, direct primary care is basically where you can, for lack of a better word, is get a membership with a doctor who will then be your direct primary care physician.
Uh-huh.
You don't use insurance, and they're available 7/24 by text, phone, same day.
Yes,
same day next.
I see that coming. Boy, that is a big wave, Rick.
NBC just had a thing on it as to how this one family saved over $500 a month by using direct primary care services.
Yes, I saw that. I think that is, I love you bringing that up because I think that is a response. I think people have a need and they're going to do what it takes to get that need met. And if the old way doesn't cut it, then they're going to do away with that and they're going to come up with, and that is a great example of people having a need for care. They're not just faking it. They're not just making up stuff. They really have a need for care, and they're going to do what it takes to get it. And I love way back in the day, somebody was talking about the difference between Chinese medical field and the American medical field. And they said it was about focus, that the people in China got paid if they kept people well.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in America got paid only if you got sick. So sickness was the focus in America, and being well was the focus in China. And I thought that was very interesting. But I can see where, people see if we address it early,
Mm-hmm.
and we take care of it early, the cost is going to be minimal. But if we just let it linger and linger and linger, the cost is astronomical. And you can say, "Oh, I'm okay and everything's wonderful," but stuff comes out and things get bad. Then you're pushing a rope uphill. It's hard. It's hard, boy. I tell you.
And going back then, this model that's what makes it so interesting. Is the DPC model, the direct primary care model,
Right.
is designed to work on wellness and not healing illness. So you have a doctor who's your coach who is in their best interest to keep you well and to minimize pharmacology and work with you to address the issues that are creating the problems instead of treating the problems and not treating the issues.
Yes, and I think that's very good. And I've seen some people, and I'm glad you brought that up, Rick, is the fact that if you have a question, they're available. And if all you have is a question, then there's no cost involved. But if you really have to get into something, then there's going to be a charge to that. So they adjust their payment schedule to your need schedule. Mm-hmm. And you begin to see that, well, wait a minute, if I just do something and ask something right now, and that's what they see, is sometimes if people get an answer to a question physically or emotionally or whatever early on, well, then down the road you do not see anything crop up that's a real problem. You know, if all of a sudden it's like diabetes and nutrition and exercise. You know, if I get that early, then it's like, well, you probably need to get some exercise in. Well, you probably need to change how you eat. And then you don't see people down the road with a diabetic problem. But if you're in a culture that's pushing sugar and a sedentary lifestyle, wow, you know, the clock is ticking. And then long before you're deep in it, and it's not fun then.
And, you know, we have also the model now where, what about these employees that are caught in the 2 to 49 employee range in these companies that are not required by law to provide health care, and they're out there trying to afford health care on the marketplace today that has gone outrageous. And so employers have an opportunity too, at a very reasonable rate, to provide health care for their employees. And once again, it's keeping the employee healthy and putting in programs that are going to make their employees better physically.
And that goes to a point that I'm seeing coming up more and more, is that when we were younger, if you could hire somebody, you hired them. Mm-hmm. You know, and if you had a slot that was open, you did everything you could to fill it right away. Now, if the person wasn't the best, didn't matter. You need to get it filled. You need to get it filled quick. And so there was a lot about easy to fire, easy to hire, and they never counted the cost of bringing a minimal employee in. And that's where I'm really seeing a big change out there, is that people are really, both employees and employers are looking at the dynamics. Is this the best place for me? Are we working together? Is this a team approach, or am I hanging out there by myself? And, you know, I guess I've heard from a lot of people, well, it looks like that person's looking out for themselves. Yeah, they were the minute you came on the company. And you didn't take the time and energy to investigate. And I think as therapists, that's one of the things, Rick, you and I say about marriage. You know, easy to fall in love, easy to get married. Now that staying married and staying in love plan, whoo, boy, some people miss that altogether. You know, that they just look and say, as long as it's like a business situation, as long as this marriage benefits me, as long as this family benefits me, good. The minute it doesn't, you know, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to do something else. I don't care. And it's just fascinating where you say, oh, a person wouldn't give up this, this, and this, and this, and destroy this, and this, and this. And one of the things we find out as therapists is, oh, yeah, they will. Yeah. I mean, they will stick a bomb to their lives and blow it up to get out, because they not nurtured and developed what was going on. And you know, that the health plan you're talking about is a development plan. It's a working with. And there's where you see companies where people are, you know, they don't hire somebody right away. It takes months to get the job. But when you get it, the fit is great, and you understand the nature of the business. And that same thing goes with therapists and with physicians. Them having the ability to understand. Them having the time and energy to develop what they feel's best, and not be instructed by a third party sitting at a desk in somewhere up north. I think that really has turned out to be destructive.
You know, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's an excellent point. And it happened to me one time where my doctor prescribed a certain medicine, and he wanted a specific medicine. It was denied by the insurance company because they said I should be trying a generic, and he knew the generics didn't work. And literally, that was probably a clerical person with no medical training, overriding a physician's.
Probably got a high school degree,
Yeah,
has no medical background, and here's their one, boy, talk about it, Rick, their one moment of power. That they got their one moment of power by pushing the button. Rick doesn't get that medication, even though that may make all the difference in the world. No. You know, I have this power or this ability, you know, and I have this limited space to affect people. Boom, I'm going to hit it. And that's a dangerous dynamic right there. There's no connectability. There's no responsibility. And when you move that out, and I think that's, now I'm going back to the good old days or the bad, you know, back in the day, and I think about physicians who knew who they were treating. They lived with who they were treating. You know, they had a relationship. They went to church with them. They ate at the same soda, you know, shop with them. They went to the same movies. You could see somebody and you know, oh, there's Doc so-and-so, or there's therapist so-and-so. You had a relationship of normalcy within the community. And now people go in and you're a number, and if your number comes up, okay, yeah, we'll treat you. And if your number doesn't come up, and like you're saying, in insurance situations where I'm working for a company that doesn't effectively cover me, well, the answer now has become tough.
Yeah. But, and again, that is it. We have become, in the healthcare industry, a number. Your number when you check in, you have so many minutes now that your physician is allowed to spend with you.
Amen. And do you get any feel that physicians feel good about that?
Oh, they don't. They don't.
I mean, that's what I think. I think people thinking, oh, physicians, you know, they don't want to spend any time. They want to drive a nice car and live in a big house. They don't want to spend any time. And I have yet to talk to one physician or one psychiatrist that says, I like this system as it's set up, that I feel like I'm giving the proper care. Rick, I have not met one.
No, as a matter of fact, it's completely contra to why they went into medicine. And you and I both know several physicians in the community who have been in the field 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing the same thing. They're actually talking about they don't see anything but getting out of the medical field because they hate the system as it goes down. Yet, going back to what we have in Greenville, then you have a group like Galen Healthcare, Dr. Tran over there, who knows, who has seen the system broken and knows it could be better, because you said it, there is a problem, and it's the people that bring solutions to the problems that are going to be effective in what we are going to do. And the idea that you can actually sit down with your doctor, and if he needs to spend 45 or she needs to spend 45 minutes with you, they will spend 45 minutes with you. But the key is they get to know you.
Right. And people heal better under those circumstances. But whether it be a therapist or a medical doctor, the fact that they feel connected, that they know the person, you feel like the people who are getting the care feel like that the care they're getting is more personal and more on point. And, you know, I remember talking to somebody and they're saying, I need therapy. I'm going to go talk to a psychiatrist. And I said, do you think a psychiatrist? Yeah, they're going to sit and talk to me for hours. I said, a psychiatrist? And they said, yeah. I said, I don't know what world you're living in, but I don't know one that does that. I said, you know, you need to really think about where you're going. And they were very unhappy and disappointed because they believed it would be a certain way. Yeah. And they believe, and that's also real sad when people can remember. I remember when I called Doc Brown and Doc Brown came over. And I call now and I never get to talk to Dr. Brown. And I got to talk to 15 people. And I've got to be put on hold for, unless I got 2 hours to waste, I'm not going to get involved in it. And I think that process makes people sicker.
Well, it does. And again, think about it. You have bad earache. You call up your primary care physician.
Right.
Yeah, we can get you in today's, whatever it is, April 18th, 19th. We can get you in on May 23rd. Well, my earache's today.
Yeah, right. Well,
okay.
Now my whole ear might fall off by then. Yeah, that was just.
Or you
wow.
go to one of those emergency care facilities and you have to fill out your entire life for an earache. And again, the doctor has never seen you before in his or her life,
right?
And they don't know your history. Or you go to something like a Galen Healthcare or direct primary care provider who knows you, and it's either going to be one of two ways. Either they know you and they can either prescribe, and say I'll have this called in because they know what you're allergic to, what you're not allergic to, what you can take, or they'll say I'll see you first thing in the morning, or come on over now and whatever. And this is what you and I grew up in that type of environment where they still made house calls.
Yeah, I remember that there was not a question about medical care. And the reason is what I mentioned before, Rick. We had a personal relationship with a physician that they were part of our community, and they knew our family, and our family knew their family, and so they just weren't some entity out there. And we were not a number. We were a name and a person, and they treated us like such.
Mm-hmm.
But for chasing the dollar bill, we have depersonalized, and that's probably some of media too. It depersonalizes, and people don't see there is a cost to that. There's an emotional cost. There's a physical cost that people never saw coming. That is now living with us today.
Well, unfortunately, the cost is also driven. The model itself is what's going to sink it, because the idea is if you're going for medical care and they see you have insurance, so let's order this test, let's order this test, let's order this test, let's order, and don't worry about it. You got insurance.
Yes.
And whether you really need it or not, versus again a direct primary care model where you only order the test that the doctor feels is necessary,
right,
and not just because you can buy it. Because if you were paying out of pocket anyway, you would hope you're not working with somebody who says, well, let's order it. You can afford it,
Right, and that's part of what I'm thinking about there too, Rick, is that here we have people going through years of medical training, okay? And then we have a person who has a high school degree sitting at a desk in an insurance company, and that person is dictating medical treatment. They have no background, they have no history, they're reading a pamphlet, they have minimal education, no medical education, but they're making medical decisions. And we don't think that's going to come back and bite us. Wow, we have really missed something there.
Cheryl, my wife, she treats eating disorders, and I remember she and I watched, I guess it was 60 Minutes a couple of years ago.
Right.
And they were talking about a young lady who had died because of lack of the care she needed for her eating disorder. And then they went to the insurance industry and found that they actually have a doctor on staff whose job is to deny. He's compensated by the denials he does.
So, if you deny, we'll pay you.
Yeah.
Oh, see, and back in the day, the word they'd use for that is evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's evil, and that it's wild, and it's fascinating that we have developed a whole group of people who now know how to use and abuse the system.
Right.
And people that are out there busting it don't know it because they don't come from that culture. But if I grow up in a culture that if you find out how you can use it and find out how you can abuse it and how you can run them around in circles, and that then becomes their normal. And we have a whole society out there like that is bleeding the system dry.
So then, where does insurance come in? Where it does work for you? It comes in where you go in and you get a direct primary care provider. You raise the deductible on your insurance policy, so you still have insurance that will cover the catastrophic events in your life. And you will not be financially ruined by that, but you're paid for that direct primary care through the money you save by increasing the deductible. And again, unfortunately, in today's world, what we would consider low deductibles at one time are now 10 times what they used to be. What we, if we used to consider a $1,000, $2,000 a low deductible, now if you get a $10,000 deductible, you're lucky. So,
see, and there's that change and there's adjustment, and we've got an old system and a new system, and trying to make that transit, and we're living in the transition, and we're missing a lot of people in that, and that's very sad. And so we want to encourage. I guess part of today's show is an encouragement to our listeners to have a relationship. Have a relationship with your physician. Have a relationship with your counselor. Have a relationship with your pastor. It's so much. We don't want to do away with media because we're on media. But the bottom line is we don't worship media. We say that at the core of it all is your relationship. What is your relationship with people that you live with? What is your relationship with people who take care of you? Are you developing and working on that? That is what Southern Porches wants to say. Really need to put a lot of energy into that.
And of course, those that are going to be watching this after the live session goes off, feel free to either private message or even leave a comment if you need some additional information on what a direct primary care facility looks like, or a doctor, how they work, and how you can make it work in your system. Because as you can tell, I'm a big advocate of it. I enjoy the opportunity knowing that my physician is going to spend time with me, that knowing that I can get my physician when I need my physician, that my physician is going to respond quickly back to me, that if I need to see my physician that day or the next day, they're going to make it happen, and that my physician is getting to know who I am, where it makes sense, and the fact that my physician doesn't want to treat everything by pills, but coach me on the right way to address the issues that are creating the problems.
Which is going to come down to having a personal relationship. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm going to just say this over and over and over again. Personal relationship, personal relationship, personal relationship. At the core of how things work for people who develop personal relationships have more quality in their life. And those that don't take the time and put in the energy, the outcome is not pretty. And it's getting more ugly as we talk.
And lastly, I'll say is if we have any business owners out there who are not able to afford some type of health or medical care for their employees, but have that desire in their heart or can see it as an opportunity to retain good employees, I got an answer for you on that too. Because like I said, no sense in bringing the problem to the table if we don't have the answers. And again, you can tell I am definitely a believer in the direct primary care system, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody out there about how to bring that in-house and at a rate that you'll be shocked at as far as the affordability of it.
And lastly, I believe the quote came from Theodore Roosevelt, who said that if anybody presents a problem without a solution, it's just whining.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. If you've got a problem, good. Bringing it up, fine. But hey, and somewhere have a solution in that. And if you do, then great things will happen.
Well, to good health, good mental health, good physical health, good spiritual health, good emotional health. We'll follow up on this next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Yes.
And again, anybody who wants, if you do see this offline, and what I mean by that is you're watching it when it's not live, you still can leave comments, and we get them, and we'll be happy to address them next Tuesday or if you want any additional information on what was discussed today, we'll be happy to provide it. But otherwise, we'll, God willing, be back next week.
Good Lord willing, the creek don't
Yep,
rise.
All right. We'll see everyone next time.
Okay.